What's happening, Bengals fans? Welcome to Inside the Jungle, episode 15. Glad you're with us. Hope everybody had a happy and safe Merry Christmas over the last week. Hey, the Bengals got you another gift, another win as they went on the road and beat the Houston Texans 37-31, snapping the very long road winning streak and getting Zach Taylor his first elusive win on the road. He's now 1-15 all time for the Cincinnati Bengals. So we're going to talk about that win, what it means for them going forward. Then, of course, we'll also look ahead to the regular season finale at home next week against the Baltimore Ravens. I guess I should say, well, no, technically it would be next week, but this week against the Baltimore Ravens as the Bengals say goodbye to the 2020 season. Of course, if you're watching us live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, we appreciate you tuning in. And if you're listening to us after the fact, make sure you hit us up via email, insidethejunglepod@gmail.com, with any feedback you might have about the show. Or you can also follow us on Twitter as well, @InsideJunglePod. We don't have Mickey with us this week. Hopefully he'll be calling in a little bit later on in the show to get his thoughts. But in the meantime, I've got two fantastic guys to talk a little Bengals with. I will start with the one and only Scott Mantell. Scotty, beat me up. What's up, bud?
Hey, Nick, Merry Christmas. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. The Bengals, the late season gift that keeps giving, for the second week in a row, looking like an actual NFL football team. So, for those of us that wanted the high draft pick, I think, we have lost out on Penei Sewell, but it is good. It is good to see the team win. It is good to see them responding, looking like an actual offense this week under Zach Taylor.
An actual offense. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. Was that a combination of Brandon Allen and the offense playing well, or is it just an example of how bad the Houston Texans defense is at the moment? It could be a combination of both, but we'll dive into that a little bit later on in the show. Also joining me this week, we've got the one and only Anthony Cosenza, AC over on the Best Coast, Background King, back in his original habitat. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, no more visible leakage, ceiling leaks behind me, right? Like there was last week. Got to bring the B+ game this week with Mickey out, but hope you guys are doing well. 2-game win streak. Don't call it a streak, Nicholas. It's I don't know. Is two games actually a streak? I don't even know if we can call it that. But
if you're a Bengals fan, it is.
That's true. Good to see you guys. And we missed Mickey, but good to see you guys. Hope you've had a good Christmas and everything. And it's always nice talking about wins rather than disgusting losses.
Yeah. Let's start off our best and worst, shall we, gents? As I mentioned, the Bengals win 37-31 over the weekend. They were a 7.5-point underdog. So they end up, again, playing pretty well. So if you had to give a best and worst, Scott, why don't you start us off?
Best, I would say Brandon Allen. I think he looked like a legit NFL quarterback. We've talked a lot about what do the Bengals do this offseason at the backup quarterback spot. Despite the big win against Pittsburgh, I think we're all of the opinion that Ryan Finley is not your long-term answer at backup quarterback. I've wanted them to go in the free agency route and pick off a veteran. But Brandon Allen showed something that tells me this guy can, keep the team afloat, win a game if needed as a backup quarterback. So I still want them to look the veteran quarterback route in free agency. But, if they can retain Allen, I think they've at least got something. As far as the worst goes, it's got to be the run defense. For the last couple of weeks, we've seen a defense that has looked, I don't know if I'd say good, but has looked pretty decent, right? There haven't been a lot of complaints. But the run defense that we saw against Houston was a lot like the run defense we were seeing at the beginning of the year. I know they're missing a lot up front. They're missing DJ Reader and Geno Atkins, but they were missing those guys the last couple weeks too. So to see the gaping holes that David Johnson found looked like the David Johnson of old. I think he averaged about 10 yards per carry on Sunday. So that was concerning. But, the Bengals put up 540 yards of offense, so not a lot to complain about.
Yeah, you mentioned David Johnson, Scott. 12 carries in the game for 128 yards.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's not a good average if you're a defense, especially with a Texans team that really is one of the worst at running the football all season long, and who were down a couple of tackles and lost 2 starting tackles in that game. Tunsil and Kwabe both went out in that game. And they still gave up 166 yards on the ground. Nuts. No bueno, as they say. AC, your best and worst?
I will say, I mean, Brandon Allen's a good one for the best. I will say, though, guys, the running backs, P. Ryan and Bernard, combining for 160 yards on the ground and another 107 through the air. So 100, basically, 100 and is just terrible at math. So I guess close to 300 yards of total offense there between those two guys. So, I mean, you got to like what you're seeing out of these guys. And it's no coincidence that these 2 wins have been coupled with the ability to run the ball, have a little bit of balance on offense, and get these guys in space in the passing game and let them do some work in the screen game. So, I like what I've seen from those 2 guys. I'm a big Joe Mixon guy, but at least in these past couple of weeks, they haven't missed much of a beat in terms of production from the running back position. So you got to like that, and it's I think been a big part in leading them to 2 wins. The worst, I guess I could go a little bit along the same lines as Scott and just general the tackling. It wasn't just in run defense. I mean, I think there was LaShawn Sims when he came in for William Jackson. He was holding on for dear life to a couple of guys just to have other guys come in and clean up the tackle. There were a lot of issues on David Johnson, like both of you guys mentioned. It's almost kind of like all of that effort on defense that we saw in Pittsburgh. They just were a little bit gassed still. Like we were wondering if that was going to be the case this week, given the emotion, the short week, going on the road, the holiday, all of that. And it showed a little bit, in my opinion, in terms of tackling. So I guess that would be my worst coming to the forefront of my mind.
If I would have told you guys before the game that Deshaun Watson was going to throw for over 300 yards, have 3 touchdowns, David Johnson would have over 120 yards rushing, and Brandon Cooks would have over 140 yards receiving, and the Bengals would win, what would you say to me?
I would have said you're probably sipping on the eggnog.
I would have said fake news.
These numbers are mind-boggling. How the Bengals that tells me that neither one of these teams are very good. Like neither one of these teams are good at all, and the records certainly indicate that, right? I mean, holy crap! Those statistics offensively for Houston, you should be winning that game. You should be winning that game. But the Bengals, wow! I mean, as Scott said, Brandon Allen, 29 to 37, 370 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. And I have to give credit to Paul Diener of The Athletic. I was listening to their podcast earlier today that Brandon Allen actually is averaging more yards per attempt than Joe Burrow. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy to even say that. And I know the sample size is smaller, and I know he isn't playing the same defenses that Burrow had to play earlier in the year, but wow, that's just – I would have loved to see Joe Burrow play in this game against the Texans.
Yeah, I think the running game, though, and I don't want to cut you off there, Scott. I just think the running game opens up more opportunities when you've got a defense that isn't so, prepared for Joe Burrow throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game because they know that the Bengals aren't able to run the ball. I think you see a little bit of a different approach in terms of what the Bengals are able to do and be successful at on offense because of the balance they're achieving in the running game. I think this was the hope, especially with Mixon in the mix early in the season. You would hope that there was going to be some semblance of balance and not put all of this on Joe Burrow, especially right away, without a preseason, without much of a training camp to speak of, and it just wasn't working. And unfortunately, it led to kind of not only disastrous results in the win-loss columns, but also Burrow not making it through the entire season.
Yeah, and I was going to say very similar there, Anthony. And I think if you want to look at one silver lining that comes from the Burrow injury and the Mixon injury is that it's forced Zach Taylor as a play caller to learn how to run the ball. I think that's been a big complaint of ours, and I think going forward, I think we're all in agreement that whether we want this coaching staff around again next year or not, they probably are going to be around. But those injuries have seemingly forced Zach Taylor to figure out the importance of the run game and how to get something established. Because this was the second game in a row now that we've seen the Bengals be able to run the ball. And because of it, they've been able to have success, right? They had success against the Steelers. They had success against the Texans. And that has opened it up for Brandon Allen, who, again, you go look back to, he looked great, beyond just the stats. He looked poised back there. He was making smart decisions. It was encouraging. It was a good win. I know it's a bad Texans team, right? But like I was saying before the show, Nick, 540 yards of offense. It doesn't matter how bad that defense is. That means you were playing good football on offense, so the Texans have been bad all year on defense, but they probably haven't given up 540 yards that often, if ever, this year.
I'm going to cop out and I'm going to give two bests, gentlemen. My first one is to Drew Sample catching his first touchdown pass on a really well-designed play. Really liked how Gio managed to avoid the defender on that pick play to not make contact. Really well run by both players. Sample with his first touchdown grab. And then also, I'm going to give my best also to T. Higgins. That touchdown catch was amazing. He now is tied for the rookie record with Chris Collinsworth with receptions. I think it's 66 now. If you would have told me that neither Chad nor AJ had the rookie receiving record, I would have. That to me was also surprising. I would have thought that they would have been up there. I think I could be wrong, but maybe Chad got hurt in his rookie year and missed some games. I think I remember he broke his collarbone or something.
I think he did, yeah.
So that could have also played into it. But still, T. Higgins really making his case next year to be wide receiver 1 for the Cincinnati Bengals. My worst, I'm going to throw out a kicker in here at some point, right? Just knew it. Seibert missing a field goal. That's probably that. Out of all the things like that, there weren't too many things to complain about for what the Bengals did this weekend, right? You mentioned the running defense, yeah, but I think we've known that's been an issue for a while for the Cincinnati Bengals. But for me, yeah, you got to make field goals, man. You're trying to make this team. I think I saw at one point, and I could be wrong. I thought I saw him wearing an Apple Watch during the game, but maybe it was one of those contact tracing watches. On the opening kickoff, if you go back and watch it, it looks like he's wearing some sort of watch, which I found very interesting. I didn't notice that, but I do think this has been Austin Seibert's tryout for next year, which I think he's failing greatly. I just hope they bring someone else in to compete with Bullock. Well, I don't think Bullock will be back next year either.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely touch on some of that next a little bit later on the show, kind of who we think might be wearing the orange and black for the last time this upcoming weekend as well. So we'll definitely be touching on that. But those are our best and worst. We'd love to hear from you. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at Inside Jungle Pod and let us know what your best and worst from this weekend was for the Cincinnati Bengals. Big win, believe it or not. It took Zach Taylor 16 tries, but he finally got his first road win, gents. And it also means the Bengals aren't going to be picking third unless some sort of miracle happens. What do you make of the – I saw a lot of people on Twitter over the weekend with some varying opinions, right? And we've had varying opinions amongst us here on the show. Like Mickey, we know, has been the one who says, hey, we need to win games. Like Anthony and Scott and partially myself, we all kind of like, what do these wins mean? Like, you want to be picking higher next year. These are meaningless wins. So where do you guys fall now that the Bengals have won 2 games in a row and have effectively taken themselves out of the Penny Sewell sweepstakes, AC?
It's hard. It's hard to say because part of me always kind of said, what are you tanking for 2 years in a row? You've already got your quarterback, try and win these games, et cetera. But you're also kind of like, well, what does 4 or 5 wins really mean? And then now they're on a 2-game win streak. They've kind of slayed a primetime dragon. Zach Taylor got that road win. And now if you look at it, and if they go to Paul Brown Stadium and beat Baltimore and kick them out of the playoffs, that's 3 pretty nice wins to end the season there with backup quarterbacks, plural. a lot of injuries and all of that. I mean, you then all of a sudden, we're saying, what does it matter if they win? Then if they rattle off 2, maybe 3 nice wins to end the year here, you're getting Joe Burrow back, and you're kind of feeling a lot better about where things are headed in 21 if Zach Taylor does come back and whichever assistants come back under him. So, in terms of that, I think these are wins. If Zach Taylor's going to be kept around for 21, these are wins that had to happen, and in order for all of us to at least feel a little bit better as to the direction of things next year. In terms of draft status, I mean, I think most Bengals fans still want Sewell as the guy, just because the offensive line still needs help. They're still putting it together with Band-Aids and glue and all kinds of different stuff. And I know Xavier Su'a-Filo stepped in and did pretty well per PFF in terms of pass blocking, but what's the long-term viability of him? What's the long-term viability of these other guys that they're kind of throwing out there? So, I mean, I think Sewell is kind of the hope. I know there's now some kind of, if the Bengals stay towards number 5 overall, there's now more players that enter the conversation.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, the Alabama wide receivers, Kyle Pitts, maybe edge rusher, depending on what happens with William Jackson. Cornerback could be in the mix. Maybe even a move back to collect more picks and see what happens there. But, they still have a good chance to get a blue chip guy that can help them out potentially right away. I still think that, getting some help on your offense at this point, can really only help Joe Burrow, preferably offensive line without making a reach. But, it's early. It's early.
Scott, how do you feel? Are you in the camp of, I mean, I'm not saying tank. I'm not saying the Bengals should tank, but like, it's almost like these wins are kind of unfortunate. What's the word I'm looking for here? Like it's great, but at what cost?
Right. I mean, I've said it many times on here. I make a distinction between bad seasons and lost seasons, right? Last season was a lost season, and in a lost season, you want to lose as many as possible, get as high of a pick as possible, especially when there's a blue chip player like Anthony was saying there to take. Last year, we got that in Burrow. This year, that player is there. The one thing that I see in these wins that I like is that I am of the belief that whether they won these games or not, that Zach Taylor was coming back. Last year we knew that Lewis wasn't coming back. So establishing some sort of momentum, some sort of belief in the system and the coaching staff wasn't as important. This season, with the belief that Taylor would be coming back, establishing that there is something there to build on, I do think has some value. I think it has value in showing that you've got a competent backup that can play. I think it's good to see, this is the second or third week in a row now that Su'a-Filo is back, and you're starting to see an offensive line play better. You're starting to see them be able to run the ball, establish the run, get something going. We've seen some successes now on the defense. So you're at least being able to point to something and say, things are starting to head in the right direction. And I think this is one of those things where the preseason really hurt this team. It really hurt this team in, I think, establishing who was going to be the starting offensive line out of the gate. That combined with the early Su'a-Filo injury, I think really set him behind the 8 ball. I think if you had a full preseason, I'm not so sure Michael Jordan wins that starting spot at left guard. Things might be different, but without that preseason, you're learning those things as you go. And I think we're now at the point in the season where we've learned, Michael Jordan's not the answer at left guard or probably anywhere, right? But you get a competent left guard in there like Su'a-Filo, and you look at this offense line, you say, okay, they're at least not maybe the worst in the NFL, right? They still need to upgrade all those positions, but you're seeing what this offense could do behind Zach Taylor if we just get some decent offensive line play.
I just want to say one thing, just to interject real quick, Nick. What I don't hope happens is that the Bengals do the traditional Bengals thing and hang their hats on these wins and hang their hats on these performances by veteran journeymen and all kinds of guys and say, hey, you know what? We turned a corner. We're good. We really don't need to make – that's my biggest fear.
That's my concern too, Anthony.
Yeah, I don't want there is an element of fool's gold with these 2, possibly 3 wins to end the season here. And I don't want the Bengals to crawl into their usual Bengals shell and say, you know what, we had an active free agency last year. We had injuries, and they just embed all the excuses that we've seen them use. And now they point to these 3 games at the end of the season and improvements by certain players as those are the metrics we're using, not the previous almost 2 seasons prior to that. That's what I'm worried about, Nick and Scott too. But
if these 2 wins result in them entering free agency and not opening up the checkbook to a guy like Joe Thuney or or Brandon Scherf or something like that, then these 2 wins hurt this franchise greatly. The line has been better with Xavier Su'a-Filo. This line could be way better with someone other than Xavier Su'a-Filo. So yeah, you're right, Anthony. If these
someone other than Bobby Hart as well,
him as well. Yep. If these 2 wins result in them saying, oh, you know what, the offensive line's starting to gel, we don't need to address it, that's a loss then.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear from you, Bengals fans. Get in touch with us. We've got phone lines open. 513-572-7757 is the number to call. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Bengals winning streak, how it's affected their draft, and possibly coaching staff heading into next season? Let's go to before we go to the phones. Well, how about that? Let's welcome him into the show. Mickey joining us. Surprise, surprise. What's up, Mick?
Just fashionably late. Just thought I'd pop in on you fellas.
Before we go to the phones, give me a quick best and worst from the weekend.
Oh, wow. Putting me on the spot right away. I mean, I like the win, right? Like, I don't know what you guys have covered. I've never been the type of person that roots for my teams to lose.
We said that.
So that's good. Worst, I don't know. Like, I think it's interesting to see that at this point, like, we have a little bit of a quarterback controversy, I think, in Cincinnati. Like, who's fighting for that second spot? Yeah. I think I saw a stat that this past performance was better. Just QBR was better than anything that Burrow put up. So I'd like to see what happens in camp next year.
I have to give another worst, gents. Kevin Huber had to punt in this game. It was only once, but he still had to punt at least one time. You couldn't give that guy a day off, huh? Man. All right, let's go to the phone, shall we? Area code 916. Hi, who's this?
Yeah, this is Hank in South Carolina.
What's up, Hank?
Call again.
How's it going, buddy?
What's up, guys? Hey, it's going awesome. That was the first this past week against the Texans was the first time the Bengals had a legit offense. I think they threw like 10 passes of 20 or more yards down the field to AJ and T, and they were very successful, and that's what I've been waiting for all season because, basically that's T. Higgins that you saw on Sunday. That's the T. Higgins from Clemson, and that's his strong point, 20 or more yards down the field because he can get open, and then he, as you can see, he can make some awesome catches.
Yeah.
So it's been, this thing where they use him like Tyler Boyd, and he's going and just getting first downs and getting beat up over the middle. He can do that, but you're not like optimizing your offense. And, and for Brandon Allen, that was a great game, but Joe Burrow, I just think like he's probably watching that thinking, why didn't you call some of these plays for me when I was in there? Because, the offense, the way it was, it's not going to be successful. You can't just like run and then throw 5-yard passes and think that everything's going to be great. You got to extend the field. You got to make the defense respect you. Then that opens up the screens and that opens up the running game. And they had a perfectly balanced offense on Sunday against the Texans. So it was very exciting to see. And I hope they do the same thing as Baltimore because T needs 92 yards to be the first Clemson wide receiver to ever gain 1,000 yards as a rookie. So And at wide receiver that would be a very big deal.
Yes, it will. You know what else Joe Burrow was probably sitting at home, Hank, saying to himself is, where the hell was this running game when I was playing?
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. So it looks like the team's kind of, pulled it together here in the second half. Well, at least the last couple weeks, but last week in particular, that was like an NFL team. That's what an NFL team should look like offensively. And then defensively, they did okay. But, you still give up, 31 points?
Yeah.
So,
31 points and 500 yards of offense.
But, that's kind of the way the NFL is going. So as far as next year's draft, I agree you got to get the offensive line situated. Also, a possible, second round pick is Terrence Marshall out of LSU. Because if you could reunite him with Burrow, I think he could fit into the offense, and it'd be pretty seamless. And that would give them another threat down the field.
Hank,
so I don't know, oh, go ahead.
Are you a big draft guru? Do you follow it closely?
When I got a team to root for, now I actually got a team. So,
okay.
Before it was whatever. But, it's, you got to get a great left tackle to protect Burrow's blind side. And then, maybe pick up a couple other guys in other rounds of the draft. But I think you also have to get another wide receiver.
Yes.
You can't have enough wide receivers, and particularly if they're going to be running 3 and 4 wide, and if they don't re-sign AJ, which at this point seems pretty doubtful, you got to have somebody else, and nobody else on the roster has really proven that they can be a number 3. You got guys that can be the 4th wide receiver, like Erickson and so forth, that'll come in and get you those first down catches. But as far as a deep down the field guy, I think they need another guy, and may as well get somebody that Burrow's already played with, and Marshall, I think you might be able to get him at the top of the second round.
All right. Well, I hope you're right, Hank. We appreciate your call, man, and have a happy New Year.
All right, cool. Yeah, you guys have an awesome one too, and nice talking, and keep up the good work. I love this show.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. That's Hank in South Carolina getting us started here on the show. If you want to get in touch, 513-572-7757 is the number to call. Mickey, before you hopped in here, we were kind of talking about the 2-game win streak as we kind of wind things down here and what it means for the Bengals draft. And you saw it. And again, I don't know how much you follow social media during the games, but you could see a lot of upset Bengals fans that they won. You can see a lot of upset Bengals fans that people are upset that the Bengals won. So we kind of know where you stand. You've made it known, you don't want them to tank. You want them to win games. There is something to be said. And I remember this last year very vividly. This same week, a year ago, the Dolphins got hot towards the end of the year, right? They knocked off the Patriots in that last game of the year, which meant that the Patriots didn't get home field. They did it with a backup quarterback, essentially, in Ryan Fitzpatrick. They got off that momentum carried them into this year. I'm not saying that the Bengals are anywhere close to where the Dolphins are at, because the Dolphins had mucho draft picks to build that team and get them better. But there is something to be said about momentum heading into next year. What kills me and what drives me nuts is these pundits on social media and these media people saying the Bengals need to learn how to win, and this coaching staff needs to learn how to win. Wait a minute. If you don't know how to do that, then why are you coaching? That drives me nuts. This notion of learning how to win. You should already know how to do that by now. That's what drives me freaking insane.
That's why I don't listen to any of that crap. It's just nonsense, right? It's just talking points that, it's kind of like, in, business speak when they, think outside the box, things like that. It's stuff that everyone says that really has no meaning behind it. But yeah, I'm happy they won the draft. The beauty of this is no one knows what's going to happen in the draft, right? And so if Bengals fans had their eyes on a certain player and they think he was going to be available at 3, but now he's not, no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows if that player is going to be the savior or the GOAT. No one knows. And so play to win the game. I mean, that's why we're here. And I do think there's, right now you're seeing what talent you have at the, maybe the second level at a lot of these positions. And I think it's valuable. But I mean, everyone rode the Pittsburgh win, and that was a huge win. I mean, those were the ones. I mean, I remember very beginning on in the season when Anthony and I talked about it. Like, those are the games that we have to start winning, whether you're in it or not. That was beautiful. And then, to carry that on, I'd love to see him do one more. End the season with a win against Baltimore. That's where I'm at. Like, I was never sold on a specific player in the draft. Like, I think if you're truly rebuilding, get a bunch. I don't know, but like there's several people at the top of the draft that I can get excited about. And now it's weird, but I've kind of got my eye on that tight end, right? Like, that's a game-changing potential. And when you look at what guys like Gronk and Kelsey have done for teams, I mean, that's huge. And you get an uncomfortable tight end, that's a huge weapon.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's something you draft at 5. That's where I'm like, a tight end at 5, that would be a big, bold move, I guess, if it were me.
True. I mean, I'm still in the let's trade back, let's get a couple extra value and a little bit extra value and do it. But I don't know. There's a lot of potential game changers at the top end of this draft.
Yeah. I still go back to, and AC and Scott, you can kind of chime in on this as well. Like, the people that are saying that they need to learn how to win, like, we're 16 road games in to the Zach Taylor era. He finally gets it done. Like, why is it that in Cincinnati, whether it's the Bengals, whether it's the Reds, we have to learn how to win? Like, why? Like, this should be, you're being paid a lot of money to know how to win football games. Why do you have to learn on the job? This is the NFL. Scott, you're muted.
I think he's muted.
It was a good take, I promise.
Yeah,
he had a great one.
It was great. I'm not even going to repeat it here because I missed the. No, well, what I was going to say is we're not the only place that talks about that. There's plenty of places that talk about
that. Doesn't happen in Pittsburgh. It doesn't happen in Casey. It doesn't happen in Green Bay.
Well, that's because they're always winning, Nick. Like, when you're not used to winning, there is something to be said of learning how to win. There is something to learning how to close out games for teams that haven't done it a lot. So it is something you probably do hear in places like Cleveland and in places like, maybe not Houston, but other places as well. Like, it's not unique to Cincinnati, but there is a learning curve at all levels of sports of that, learning to finish a game. So, I don't know. I do think there is some validity to saying this is a team, this is a coaching staff that needs to learn how to close games out. And I'm glad we're at least seeing they can finally do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those old adages that, defense wins championships, and, all these old kind of cliches that there's some truth to them. But I mean, obviously, as time goes on and evolves, there's just different mindsets that come with it. I don't know. I don't know if it's learning how to win, and I don't think it's the players that need to learn how to win. If you want to go that route, I think it's more coaches and above that need to, quote unquote, learn how to win. And I don't even know if learn how to win is the right phrase for the Cincinnati Bengals. I would say more winning needs to become the culture, and winning needs to be within the organization, needs to be embedded into the organization. And there have been flashes in the pan where they've built some nice strings of seasons together, namely under Marvin Lewis, a couple under Sam Weish. But, it just going back to a conversation I think we had a few weeks ago, Nick, about, what the structure is within this organization, how they run things. And, when Marvin Lewis was here, the many hats he had to wear, aside from just being a head coach, I think it's not really necessarily learning how to win from a player standpoint or a coaching standpoint. It's just more embedding winning into your organizational culture. And I think the Bengals, that's what they need to learn how to do. And that starts from the very top. Yeah,
when you put it that way, I agree with you. But, man, it shouldn't, like, I look at these other franchises like Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, right? It's his third year there now. He didn't have to learn how to win.
No, there are
Mike Tomlin didn't have to learn how to win.
Yeah, there are flagship NFL franchises and owners and management groups that run teams very efficient. That's why Baltimore's always up at the top. That's why Pittsburgh's always up at the top. Green Bay is always up at the top. New England's always up at the top. It's the same teams. And while there's a lot of parity and there's a lot of teams that kind of cycle through their Kansas Cities. Now, one parallel that you see with a lot of those teams also is elite quarterback play.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not hard to learn how to win when you have Aaron Rodgers,
Tom Brady, Big Ben.
There's your two quarterbacks there, Nick. So I think we're talking about two different situations here.
Fair enough. I will give you that. I just saw that over the weekend, this whole notion of learning how to win. And I don't know, it really irked me. Like this shouldn't be happening. Like it should be to the point now where, and then maybe this is a microcosm of, or maybe something happening above the coaching staff that's kind of causing all. Anyway, I needed to get that off my chest after seeing that on social media over the weekend. We got a good question here in the chat from John. He wants to know, if Sewell is off the board, who or what do you take? Do you trade back or draft best player available? Assume we'll play this game assuming we're drafting, we'll say fifth, right? Because I think that's where they're at now, currently behind the Houston Texans. So who wants to answer John's question first? I think Mickey, we already know where he's going to say. He's going to trade back and acquire more picks.
Yep.
I would say it depends. It depends on what has been done in free agency mainly. I haven't done a whole lot of research yet on the draft to see what else is out there on the offensive line besides Penny Sewell. I know this is a good offensive line class. Whether or not you have someone worthwhile to take it at 5, I don't know. But if they pick up 2 good veterans along the line, I think that takes offensive line out of the immediate need and really opens things up. I think Anthony has said it before. This defensive line has quietly regressed a lot and gotten older, and they've lost a lot. So I would say defensive line is certainly within the realm of possibilities. I think we've got our wide receiver 1 in T. Higgins, and you got Boyd. But beyond that, I don't think they should re-sign Green. And I'm not sure if any other wide receiver is signed beyond this year. So there is a need at wide receiver. There are some game changers at wide receiver. So I could get behind that. The Kyle Pitts guy that I think Mickey and Anthony both mentioned him earlier. If you're talking between 5 and 10, he might be someone that you take a look at. So I think it really depends on what have they done in free agency.
Yeah, Auden Tate's signed through this next season, but that's it. Okay. And then, like I've said, they've got 4 impending free agents at the wide receiver group. So
forget about Trent Irwin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Alex Erickson.
I don't know how long he's signed for. We just saw him over the weekend make a catch.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike Thomas. That list runs pretty long. I would also just to piggyback a little bit on what Scott said there. In terms of depending on how free agency goes, it also depends on how those first 4 picks go. Because if you say it's Sewell and 3 quarterbacks that go in front of you, your ammunition to be able to move back and get a haul of picks greatly lessens with top 3 quarterbacks already gone in front of you. If one of those quarterbacks is still there and a team wants to move up with you at 5, then you can get a pretty good haul, I would think, because teams get quarterback needy and they want to get a guy. You can then, that maybe makes the most sense to move back because you can get more picks that way. If the quarterbacks are gone, I don't think there's going to be teams that are going to be clamoring up to get to number 5 in this draft. So I think that's kind of another thing that is dependent there. So, just say for the sake of argument, it's the 3 quarterbacks in Sewell that are gone before the Bengals take the podium at number 5. I think you probably stay put and you take one of these guys that both of these guys have talked about. And if it's a Jamar Chase, if it's one of the Alabama wide receivers, you better make damn sure that you think that this guy is going to have the same type of impact and longevity as AJ Green when you took him at number 4. Because if you're going to take a wide receiver at number 5 and you took one at the top of round 2 last year, you better make sure that you've got a plan to use that guy immediately. If it's Pitts, which I think is a really intriguing option, and could be a franchise-changing type of piece with Joe Burrow. We saw how he utilized Thaddeus Moss in that offense at LSU, and Thaddeus Moss is nowhere near the athlete that Kyle Pitts is. If you're gonna grab that guy, awesome, but you better damn well have a plan to be able to utilize a player like that and not let him rust on the shelf, because that would be just criminal if the Bengals underutilize a tight end after taking him at number 5.
Looking at the draft right now. Go ahead, Mick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The trade back scenario works if there's a quarterback that people are clamoring for. I mean, I doubt you get the same kind of energy around a tight end or a receiver. If someone does bite, sure, take it. Take the haul of picks. But I agree with AC. If the quarterback's not there, it probably changes my opinion.
And that's also the conundrum of the winning too, because I know, Mickey, you want to trade back and take a lot of extra picks, but the further you drop back in the draft order, the less value you've got to be able to trade back and collect more picks. So it's the catch-22 there. The more they win here at the end, the less value they have to be able to trade back and pick up all of a nice haul of picks.
But win games. I mean, that's what it's about. So I'll never be mad at my team for winning.
Right, I know the Bengals sitting 5th in the draft order. Ahead of them, Jacksonville, the Jets, both of them have clinched their spots. So we know Trevor Lawrence is going to Jacksonville. We know the Jets, will they take a quarterback? Maybe not. Sam Darnold has somewhat come on strong over the last couple of weeks. They're probably going to have, I don't know if it's been confirmed, but they're more likely going to have a new coaching staff there too. Houston, they definitely needed help on a bunch of different spots. Would they draft a tackle?
Houston's not drafting there.
Oh, is it Miami?
Dolphins.
Sorry,
Yep.
I see that now.
I
should learn how to read.
I think they probably would take a tackle.
Well, we know they wouldn't be in the market for a quarterback.
Who knows after this weekend? Tua got benched, man.
I was going to say, I've already seen some articles coming out of Miami that is saying that they might want to consider taking a quarterback. So
that is posturing. There is no way they're drafting a quarterback in the top 5. There's just zero chance of that happening. That's just my personal take, but whatever. And then Atlanta, would they go quarterback? I don't know how many more years Matt Ryan's got left on his contract from where they're at. But yeah, we'll see what happens. If it were me, if the Bengals didn't get an offer they really liked and they had to stay at 5, I probably would take Chase. I think I would take Jamar Chase, the wide receiver, because they need another wide receiver that's going to stretch the field. And I don't see them signing AJ. And even if they did, he is not that guy anymore anyway, right?
They need to stretch the field.
You don't think?
I don't know. Like, for me, it'd be Pitts over. I mean, would you rather have a Tyreek Hill or a Travis Kelce?
Ooh.
I'd take Kelce.
Man, I don't know. It's just me. 5 seems just so high to draft a tight end.
Unless he's one that's going to change your team. Kelce, I think, isn't Kelce leading the league in reception yards?
I don't know.
Yeah, he's got like 1,400 yards or something, I think, doesn't he?
If he's not first, he's second.
So, I mean, that's insane. So if you can get a talent like that, a guy that's just a beast in the red zone, I don't know. I don't know how you pass on that.
But he wasn't a first-round pick, was he?
No. And I'm not saying this. I'm just saying, comparing what the possibilities could be. Like, I think stretching the field, does anyone do it better than Hill right now? And then tight end, Kelsey's obviously leading. So
that leads to it. I guess I'll point this way.
I know where you're going.
That leads to the interesting argument, because then if you have a T. Higgins, if you have a Tyler Boyd, and then you have a Kyle Pitts commands attention in the middle of the field. The short intermediate areas opens up things deep for the other players that you potentially already have on the roster, I guess. And that is maybe a little bit as to why Tyreek Hill also has quite a bit of success, because of the attention that Kelce commands. I think that is a little bit of what Mickey is saying. I don't want to speak for him though.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and I would argue with Hill. Mahomes also has 13 minutes behind the line to let things develop. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, that'd be a great weapon to have.
But let's just say you get Jamar Chase on the other side of the field. Doesn't that also stretch the defense? They can't just tee up on T. You see what I did there? Like now you've got attention being paid to both sides, which also frees up the middle for a guy like, I don't know, CJ Uzama back next year? You know, I know he'll be coming off an Achilles injury, may not be as explosive of a tight end as he has been. And we don't even know if that's really a position that features much in this offense. Like we just don't know.
And it also goes back to free agency, right? I think there's, if I remember correctly, there's a couple of decent tight ends in free agency, like David Njoku and OJ Howard, I think are both free agents this year, if I remember correctly. So, you know, if you sign a guy like that, maybe a guy like Chase then makes more sense, and vice versa. If they sign a speedy wide receiver, I think is it Curtis Samuel's a free agent this year from the Panthers?
You got him awful
guy, and you
got him awful active in free agency.
Well,
they
were last year. Maybe they go 2 years in a row. Who knows? It's a new day, Mickey. Haven't you seen the signs around the highways? It's a new day.
It is a new day, but it was also a year where there weren't very many fans in the stands. So who knows whether or not Mike's going to be willing to open up that pocketbook. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. I hope they're active. I just don't know if it'll be a wide receiver or tight end. It better be at offensive line, if anything. But yeah, so that's kind of where we stand. That's a great question. Thank you, John, for that. We appreciate that. Before we look ahead to Baltimore, let's talk about who we might be saying goodbye to this weekend. I feel like singing some Boys to Men. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday, you know. Final game of the 2020 season. We know there are quite a few players that are free agents after this year. AJ Green, probably highest on the list of guys we all assume probably won't be back. But there are others. Carl Lawson, also a free agent. William Jackson III, also a free agent. Might be the last we ever saw of Geno Atkins. I mean, I could see the Bengals cutting him. He's in the final year of his deal next year. Might save them some space on the cap. Bobby Hart could be cut, save $6 million in money there. There, you know, that $6 million can go a long way. So of the guys we say goodbye to potentially this weekend, we know, I think the four of us agree AJ's a lock, but who are the others? Who would you be surprised with, or who would be your biggest surprise would be back next season?
I mean, other than AJ?
Other than AJ. We know John Ross probably not back.
I mean, Ross and Atkins, I think.
Yeah. I would say Geno would be a big surprise for me.
But Geno is under contract next year.
Yeah, but I can't see them just
right. I mean, he's commanding a lot on that. Right. Yeah, I get
sitting on that. And he still could have some value. I mean, if they bring John Ross back, I don't know what the hell's going on with that. Like
that ship sailed.
Yeah. You left a name off that is not a Bengal, but we may have seen the last of them in our division.
Juju.
Same right team. I could see the Steelers moving on from Roethlisberger.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big,
I think,
big contract.
Doesn't he? I think he counts $40 million against the cap next year.
41.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
A lot.
And he doesn't seem like the type of guy that will give the home team discount type of thing. So I could see
not playing this weekend.
I could see that ending.
Yeah. What about William Jackson III or Carl Lawson? Well, let me ask you this:
if you give
want either one of them?
Pen, I'm signing Carl Lawson over William Jackson III.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, I wouldn't mind if they were both back for reasonable.
I think you franchise one and you extend long term the other, and I would say even though it's more expensive, you franchise tag William Jackson. I think I said this on our last week's show or whatever, but William Jackson is one of the most frustrating players to watch because he when he's out there, there are a lot of areas in which he dominates and he looks every bit of the part of a lockdown corner, but the interceptions aren't there, the dropped interceptions are, and the injuries are. But the low completion percentage allowed, passes defended, and when he's healthy in there, he's a top corner. So I think, and you have yet to see this defense with Trey Waynes and William Jackson and Mackenzie Alexander the way it was supposed to be designed this year at the cornerback position. And then you have the safeties, Bell, Bates, maybe even a little Sean Williams. So, and by the way, Sean Williams is a guy who's probably not going to be here next year.
Probably his last name as well.
So I think just for the sake of see what you got with Waynes and Jackson, I think you maybe franchise tag Jackson. It's going to be an expensive one, but maybe with some of these salaries you're offloading with an Atkins, Bobby Hart, et cetera, you're able to do that and then extend Carl Lawson. I think Carl Lawson's a valuable edge rush piece, but I think he's probably a very good number 2 edge rusher on a team. I don't think he is ever going to be the guy unless you get another number 2 type of pretty good edge rusher and all of a sudden it allows him to shine. But I think that's probably what I think would be the best plan going forward with those 2 guys, personally speaking.
I have a hard time franchising William Jackson for me personally. Like, if you're going to franchise him, he needs to be a top 5 corner in the league. And I just don't think he is. Yes, the numbers indicate that he's good from a coverage standpoint, but like, I expect more picks. I expect him to be on the field more than he is. He's been awfully injured for a guy commanding top 5 money in the league. So if it was me, if I'm the Bengals, I say, here's our number. And if you can go get that from somebody else.
Yeah, but with a franchise tag, you could also potentially trade him. You could lock him up and someone comes knocking. And
but is there a market for him? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. What would they get for him?
To be determined. But
right.
I mean, I think there are teams who would value a guy like that. And when over a third of your annual schedule is against guys like Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, and maybe Ben Roethlisberger, I just think corners, that even pretty good ones like him are kind of at a premium. And again, I guess I just personally would really like to see William Jackson and Trey Waynes on the field at the same time.
I think we all would, Anthony.
I know. If only. Onlys. What's the old saying about if onlys?
Yeah. Would you guys agree Bobby Hart will probably the last time we see him in orange and black?
That's a tough one.
I don't know.
I mean, they seem to love him.
I hope it's the last time we see him in orange and black. I don't know if that matters, but I feel like we've seen enough out of Fred Johnson and Akeem Adeniji this year that if you sign another starting tackle, that you can let Bobby Hart go and let one or both of those guys be your swing tackles.
Mark in the chat brings up a good point about cornerbacks. Sorry to change subject on you, Scott, there. You said, is there a better corner in this draft that would be there at 5?
I mean, there's a few big names in here, but are you talking playing today, like playing today or tomorrow or whatever? No, I guess week 1 next year, is that going to be better than William Jackson of week 1 next year? I don't know. And then, of course, we're talking about the innumerable amount of needs that we're talking about on this roster. And if you let your cornerback 1 as your roster is currently constructed, if you let him walk, all of a sudden you've got another big void that you need to fill, and you don't have all of these surplus of draft picks like you had in 2019.
Yeah. Mackenzie Alexander, is he on a 1-year deal?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he could be gone.
Yep.
Josh Bynes could be gone.
Yep.
Oof.
I think Alexander has earned another contract with this team. I've been very impressed with him.
I would hope that he would sign here again, but he could command maybe from other teams. He could get more. I don't know. It's a good question. Let's move over to the coaching staff, right? I heard there was a report last week from Lindsay Patterson that she's got it from a pretty good source that there will be changes to the coaching staff this offseason. So that's kind of, I don't know. I guess we're assuming Zach is back. That kind of points us in a couple of directions, right? My guess is it's probably some sort of like quality control coach. Not some.
Do they even employ those?
He's the sideline hype guy. But no, like, I guess that kind of points to a couple of directions, right? When we hear that information, we're probably leaning more towards Lou Anarumo or Jim Turner, right? I mean, that's kind of where I think Bengals fans and most people are seeing that and going, something's got to change here. If you had to pick one or the other or both, what are your thoughts?
Jim Turner. I mean, this is an offensive line that he's hung his hat on Michael Jordan that blew up in his face and blew up Burrow's knee. He's hung his hat on Bobby Hart. He's played better the last couple games, but we've seen enough of Bobby Hart. I think when you come out and you're publicly defending those guys like he has, and they keep performing the way they have for 2 straight years, and he was a hire that there was a lot of blowback on to begin with. I think, I think that's an easy scapegoat. I hope that's not the only change. I think you've got to change way more than just your offensive line coach on a staff that's gone, 6 whatever and 1 over the last 2 years. So Jim Turner would be my number 1, and Lou Anarumo, I'd be okay with letting them both go.
I'm trying to remember, didn't Marvin after year 2, is that when he got rid of Leslie Frazier and I think somebody else, or maybe it was just Leslie?
It was, Leslie, and then he brought in Chuck Bresnahan, if you remember that blast.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're asking one or the other, I guess I would say I would prefer Jim Turner to go over Lou Anarumo just because. But now we're getting in this territory right before Mickey came on we're getting into the territory of what do these wins tell ownership? What are these wins? Are guys saving their jobs that maybe shouldn't be here just based on these end of season wins? You're talking Bobby Hart, you're talking Jim Turner, you're talking, Bobby Hart's played better in recent weeks and his pass protection PFF grades have been better, but I still think that he should be a backup on a team. And maybe fringe, emergency starter at this point. It's not there. And when we're talking about this is where I get a little worried about who has saved their job in these past couple of weeks. But I mean, I guess I would say both Turner and Anarumo I'd like to see go, and maybe the Bengals kind of, in order to light a fire under Zach, say, you're bringing in an experienced defensive coordinator, if it's Mike Zimmer, if he gets let go or whoever, to maybe keep Zach's seat hot and also bring the most out of that defense as guys come back from injury. I guess I'd like to see both of them go, but if I had to choose one, I guess I would say Turner for the reasons that Scott mentioned.
Any thoughts, Mick?
Yeah, I think Turner, it's just bad. I mean, you can't forget the first, huge chunk of the season, just awful. So yeah, I would be shocked if he's back.
One name that we didn't mention that is also in the final year of his deal, 2 names, I should say, Clark Harris and Kevin Huber. Got to bring those guys back. Got to bring those guys are legendary.
Huber for sure. He'll retire a Bengal.
I hope you're right. Let's do some shout outs before we wrap things up here, shall we? Scott, why don't you start us off? You got a shout out this week?
I do. A couple of follows that I got. Bengals, maybe characters is the right term. We've got a couple Bengals fans that are also superheroes. We got the Bengalorean and an Iron Bengal, which is Iron Man. I don't know if you guys follow either one of those or both of them. Good follows. It adds some entertainment, especially during seasons of lots of losses like this. But seeing some fans like those guys that are so into it, I enjoy both those guys on the Twitters.
All right, AC, how about you?
Got a couple. One is I scrolled through our Inside the Jungle Twitter account and just looked at some followers, and one is Brandon Kuhn. His Twitter avatar is amazing. It's like a character from Big Lebowski. So he's one, and I think he follows most of us as well, if not all of us. And kind of following suit with Scott, one of the superhero Bengal people out there. He was the Bengal, a Marvel comic book character, and now he's the Orange Arrow, I believe. He started a fantasy football league with a lot of different guys who, like us, bloggers, podcasters, and stuff that ended up being a charity league to benefit Joe Burrow's foundation that he does in the area. So good follow there. Go follow him. I think he's at the Bengal 4.
All right. How about you, Mick?
I'm gonna shout out the disc golf dad on Twitter. I think it's at Ryan Do Sparks. He's been pretty active in the mock draft, tagged me in a couple, so I like what he's doing some trading also, so I like it.
I'm going to give a shout out to @Burrow_time. He says he's the Bengals burner account. He says to me, they beat the Steelers and you're back. We've been back all year, man. What are you talking about? This isn't new. We're 15 episodes in.
More like we beat the Steelers and he's back.
Right. Right. I'm also going to give a shout out to Joe Burrow. We saw a video of him walking. That's good news, Bengals fan. Hopefully we see him take him some snaps early in 2021 for the Orange and Black for sure. So those are our shout outs. If you want shouted out here on the show, give us a follow at Inside Jungle Pod on Twitter, or you can always email us insidethejunglepod@gmail.com. All right, let's do some predictions.
Hey, ladies, quit your babbling, because now's the time in the show when all the boys pull out their cojones and make bold predictions.
I'll be completely honest, gents. I don't even remember what my bold prediction was from last weekend. But
yeah, I need to go back and look. We might have had a couple.
We might have. we might have. So, Scott, start us off. Give me
we need a stats or research guy on the staff here that keeps track of those things and goes back.
I'm hearing a volunteer from Scott. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm nominating Mark Young. Mark Young is in our chat every week. He should know. He listens every week.
Yeah,
we'll see what Mark thinks of that.
Yeah, I don't recall what my bold prediction was either. Let's see for this week. I was trying to get back and take a look to see how many. Any of you guys know off the top of your head how many sacks they gave up last time to the Ravens?
I think it was 6 or 7.
It was a lot, I think. I will say my bold prediction is they hold them to 1 sack or less this week.
1 sack or less. Well, they're coming off a game where they didn't give up any. It didn't give up any in the game against the Ravens. Or I'm sorry, the Texans. So
yeah, I just think it's 2 different defenses there. The Texans have not been a very potent defense this year. So I think we see
7 sacks. Ooh.
All right. Yeah. I'll say 1 or less.
Okay. That's pretty bold. AC?
I've got the number 5 in my mind, and I guess it's because 2021, add them all up. That's 5.
Nice.
Between turnovers and sacks, 5 total by the Bengals defense on against Baltimore.
So you're saying they're going to force 5 turnovers?
No.
4 sacks.
No, like 4 sacks and 1 turnover.
Oh,
or
I see what you're saying.
3 sacks and 2 turnovers, or 5 sacks and 0 turnovers, something like that.
A combination of 5.
Some combination to ring in 2021.
And this is the defense, not the offense giving up.
This is the Bengals defense forcing that upon the Baltimore Ravens offense.
Okay. John in the chat says Brandon Allen throws 3 touchdowns and Jesse Bates gets an INT. He almost had this one this weekend until he knocked out his own teammate. All right, Mick, you got a bold one?
Yeah, I'm gonna call. I'm piggybacking off AC. I was thinking turnovers, and so I was trying to decide interception fumbles, but I'm going to say 4 turnovers. The Bengals are gonna cause. I was thinking 3 picks, but I don't know. We'll throw a fumble in there.
Now, coming into this game, the Ravens have 9 wins, if I'm not mistaken. They're 9-5. No, 9-6.
They're 10-5, I think.
10-5.
Never mind. So they're realistically already into the postseason, or is there a chance that they lose? They could be out.
They could be out.
If they lose, they're out.
Yeah, because Dolphins are 10-5. They're 10-5. Who am I missing? Colts are 10-5. There's a lot of 10-5 teams right now.
Okay. All right.
Cleveland 10-5.
Yeah, Cleveland totally. Oof, man, how do you blow that against the Jets? total Cleveland move there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna drop an interesting stat for you here. This was shocking to me when I saw this today from Jay Morrison. But heading into the home finale with a losing record, the Bengals have won 17 of their last 18 games.
Yep.
That is freaking insane to think about.
Didn't he say like 12 in a row?
12 in a row, I think. Yeah.
The last time they lost the home finale with a losing record was in 1998. They lost 35-0 to the Buccaneers. I am going along that same route. I think the streak ends, and I think the Bengals get shut out this weekend. That's my bold prediction.
Down.
I know, but the reason I say that is because the Ravens, I think losing a couple years ago to the Bengals in Week 17, getting themselves knocked out, I think they don't want to deal with that again, right? So
that was when Buffalo fell in love with Cincinnati.
That's right. So not to be Debbie Downer here, but I think my bold prediction, and by the way, it is kind of bold considering the Bengals are coming off a 500-yard performance on offense.
Winning streak.
And they're on a winning streak. That's right. But I will say that they get shut out. That's my bold prediction. I hope I'm wrong. We usually are on these.
You will be.
Okay.
You're going to have to eat tater tots next week.
It wasn't Nick on like a 6-year streak of never picking against them, and he's become like the captain of negativity now.
I'm negative Nick now. What can I say?
Nick.
The Bengals and FC Cincinnati have ruined me. What can I say?
We're gonna make you a superhero cape for the logo. Negative Nick.
I think FC Cincinnati needs to learn to win, Nick.
Yeah, they do. You're right. They do. Mark's bold prediction is last second field goal to try and prevent a shutout, and we missed the kick. And that is funny because the last time the Bengals played the Ravens, they were losing 27-0 and kicked a field goal late in the game to end the shutout, and they were not happy about that. So that plays into this a little bit as well. So you know where I'm going since I went shutout loss. I'm predicting the Bengals lose. I don't know if it'll be 35-0 like it was in 1998 when the Bucks came to town. But I will say they lose 24-0 this weekend to start things off. We're going to end on a happy note. So I'll let you three go next. Scott, what do you got? Score prediction.
I do think the streak comes to an end. I don't think they win this one. They've played well, look good the last 2 weeks. The Ravens just with everything they got to play for and what I saw out of our run defense last week, I don't see us winning. I don't think it's a blowout. I'll go 27-23 Ravens, so they cover.
Okay. Ben dropping some knowledge in the chat room says the Ravens are like 48-0 when double-digit favorites. They are favored by 11.5 on Sunday. Does that change your mind a little bit, Scott?
I had it as 12, but
no, they were 7.5 point favorites or underdogs this weekend. They were like 14-point underdogs to Pittsburgh. The Bengals, I'm not huge into gambling in that, but the Bengals have been very good for many years with covering, and this year as well. So I'm not scared away by that line.
Okay. AC, you got a score prediction?
Everything is pointing to Baltimore winning this game and winning it by a decent amount, maybe covering, maybe not. But, Bengals are outmatched. Their backup quarterback's in, and we know about all the issues. So, something's telling me the Bengals win this one, though. I don't know what it is. I seriously, ever since last week's win against the Texans, just something's like they're going to win next week. They're just going to win next week, and it'll probably, if they do, it'll be something like what we saw a couple years ago, the Boyd play. Who, by the way, I think Boyd is playing this week. I think.
Good.
I think the injury report has yet to come out fully, but I think I would assume he's back to playing. Mixon won't. We know Jonah Williams is out. So there are a lot of personnel losses, but things are just kind of clicking right now. And when the offense isn't playing very well, the defense played well against the Steelers. Offense played well. I don't know. Something illogical is telling me that the Bengals win this one. So I guess I will say 24-23 Bengals.
With an Austin Seibert late field goal?
Sure. Why not?
All right. Mickey, how about you?
Yeah, I also have the Bengals winning. I think this is another one of those games where it's the Super Bowl for this team, right? There's nothing better than if they win this game. Slam the door on the Ravens, just nothing but great things. So I have them winning 24-20.
Man, Ben is going bold with this one. Bold prediction. Zach runs the dual quarterback system, trotting out Finley and Allen every other drive.
That's amazing.
Pulling out the stops, right? I mean, we saw it this weekend, though, with the reverse throw with Erickson. Man.
Finley's running the Wildcat or something, right?
I just want to see more Trenton Irwin. Wow. Yeah. So, I'll be negative, Nick, and wear it. I hope I'm wrong. Clearly, history shows that I might be, because the Bengals, again, this stat is just crazy. 17 of the last 18. That's just mind-boggling. Wow. Started in 93.
It's kept a lot of coaches around an extra year.
Yep. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. But we'd love to hear from you, Bengals fans, inside the junglepod at gmail.com. Let us know your bold predictions, your score predictions, and, of course, follow us on Twitter as well at Inside Jungle Pod as we wrap things up here on the show. It's New Year's. We got to give our resolutions, right? Heading into the new year in 2021. Give me one New Year's resolution for the Bengals for next season, Mickey.
They're going to have more fans at their games.
Okay, that's a good one. Anthony?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. They're going to have another active free agency. Outside free agency.
Okay. Good point. Well, I'm glad you clarified. Scotty?
Yeah, kind of following off AC here. For the first time in franchise history, they spend money on an offensive guard.
My New Year's resolution would be coaching staff changes. Hopefully what's being reported is accurate. John's New Year's resolution, this is a good one, protect Joe Burrow. Why didn't we think of that one? Definitely need to do that. How about run the ball more in 2021? See Joe Mixon more, maybe? Wouldn't that be nice? Crickets? Okay, cool. I
Yes,
get it.
I'm nodding. I'm in agreement.
It's great. Nodding is great for audio podcasts.
It is. You can hear the nod.
Yes, you can. All right. Final thoughts as we wrap up. I will start with you, Scott. Again, thanks for being on the show, buddy, as always. What do you got to say as we head into 2021?
I do hope I would like to see them win this final week. I just hope that these wins at the end of the year don't cause us to just keep everyone around, keep the same coaching staff around. Because I think whether they keep Zach Taylor or not, I think this team in general just needs a shakeup. They need something, even if it's as small as changing the offensive line coach. They need something different that's been missing last year and this year. Win or lose, I hope it just means that change is coming after this weekend.
Well, I appreciate you as always, Scotty, and Happy New Year to you and your family, bud.
Thanks, you too, Nick.
AC, final thoughts?
I know that this year has been rough on a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, and the Cincinnati Bengals unfortunately haven't been much of a respite for a lot of people going through some stuff. But hopefully things turn around for a lot of people next year, and hopefully the team is far more successful. That makes it a lot sweeter, and hopefully those who tune into this program, Nick, I'm grateful you brought this program back. Hopefully those who tune into our program and listen to us jammer on for an hour a week or so find some enjoyment in it, even though the Bengals aren't doing the best right now and haven't been over the past couple of seasons. So just, thanks to you, Nick, and Scott and Mickey for allowing me to be on this show. And thanks to the listeners for supporting it.
Good stuff, AC. We appreciate you as well, buddy. Happy New Year to you and your family.
Yeah, you back at you, buddy.
And last but certainly not least, he joined the show late. Might be the first time ever in the history of the podcast. He's a late arrival, but we are very glad he was here. Mickey Menzer. Final thoughts, bud?
Yeah, I mean, I have to second everything AC just said. He got deep on us, and so we definitely appreciate all that. I don't know. My final thought's going to go out to Zach. Right? There's a lot of people that are still not convinced he's the guy for the Bengals, right? But if he goes out and beats the Ravens, ends their playoffs hopes, and so you end your season with 2 huge division wins. I mean, I think that solidifies his spot next year for this team. And then, with an off season, who knows what happens. So, my message is to him, just get it done.
Well said, Mickey. Well said. And Happy New Year to you and your family as well.
You too, man.
My final thought heading into 2021, again, I hope I'm wrong about the Ravens game this weekend. I hope the streak continues. I hope that this is a springboard into next year. The success they've had these last 3 weeks, hopefully, what will be 3 weeks if they beat the Ravens, kind of springs them into 2021. Hopefully we get Joe Burrow healthy. There's a lot of things I'm hoping for, and you're right. I hope that maybe Zach Taylor has learned how to win. And that they can carry that into next season. But like Anthony said, we thank you so much for tuning in every week. We thank you so much for downloading the show every week. And for many years we deliberated: do we bring it back? Like, how are we going to do this? And finally, it was just like, let's just do it. And I'm really thankful and glad we decided to come back, even if we did miss the first 2 weeks of the season. Really exciting time to be a Bengal fan. Even with Joe Burrow out, it's been fun to get on this microphone every week and talk Bengals with my guys here. I've missed doing it. Really glad to have brought it back for 2020, and looking forward to what should be a fun off season in 2021 covering the Bengals. With that said, we will definitely be back next week to recap next week's game against the Ravens, give up, of course, our best and worst, and look ahead to what should be a fun offseason for the Orange and Black. So, for Scott, AC, and Mickey, I am Subes. Bengals fans, have a happy and safe New Year, and we will see you all next week. Hoo day, everybody.
Hoo day.
Who do?